So hello everyone, welcome back to another session of this wonderful monthly webinars which we are conducting at DronaHQ. And today we will be putting our hands into getting started with DronaHQ platform, and we will try to learn some basic features and understand it very properly. And as I put it forward earlier, that this is a second episode which we are going to conduct right now. And these all seasons are like the webinars are just for you to have your better understanding, like what are the niche features are we are bringing every day, and how you can use the platform for your best making your web app and my mobile apps. So my name is Shibam, and I am developer advocate at DronaHQ. And today I'll show you to build something out of our platform as a reimbursement app. So let me just share my screen. Okay, I hope my screen is visible to everyone. And so DronaHQ platform, a low code workshop. Okay, so this is like our main working area where we will be trying out our features like screens and controls and rules and everything to build our web app from very scratch. And like for today's agenda, we have like configuring database connector. So the database which we will be using for this particular is basically the MongoDB, and querying the database. So we will have several collections for our database like the MongoDB, and we will be using it as a variable site. Like it will be dynamic, like if you want to do some query in a particular collection, you will be able to do that in a real-time base. And we will also design our UI using form repeat control. So we have a very interesting control in our platform, that is form repeat control, which helps you to take multiple inputs from the user side and send it in a collect form and creating role-based views. So this is basically for our application side. Like we have two screen type application, one is for the admin and one is for the normal user. So the role which we will provide it to them, according to that the particular screen will be visible. So let me, okay, just let me share my screen. Okay, so here right now we are in our studio, and as you can see, this is our main dashboard. Like you can create your apps, and you have your section for the connector, sheets, and PDF creator, managing all the users. And also we have some links to our, like if you want to join our community or have some support from our site, so you can check out there. So to create a new app, first of all, you can create right here. And the first step, let's do a blank app. So I provided it some app description along with, let's select create app. So while it's getting lowering, let's connect our connector. Like we have to make a connection with our database. So as I mentioned earlier, I will be using MongoDB. And when you come to our section of adding connector, wait, so you have several options. Like if you want to connect to a database like here, and MySQL, Postgres, and everything is there. Just a second. And also we have third parties API. So apart from normal databases, if you want to add some other APIs like GraphQL, Salesforce, and other things, you can also find it here. So let me go to our MongoDB. So I'll just fill these details. Give me a chance, and I'll stop the share recording for a moment. I'm just filling the details. It will just take me a minute.
Shubham, your screen is not shared.
Yeah, actually, I'm just putting up the credentials. Just give me 1 minute, then I'll share it again. Let me share it actually. So I've entered here. Okay, it's got stopped, I think. So I provided the detail like the host where my database is stated, and the database name, DronaHQ, the username and the password. Right. So let me just make it whitelist IP. Let's do a test connection. So the connection is successful, as you can see. And what I'll do, I'll just let me provide it a name. Let's see. Um, So our connector is ready. Now what we'll do, we will add few queries just to retrieve the data and perform like I want to perform one update, then insert and also the retrieving the data. So for that, let me just go there, click, you can simply click on add query. It will open the query builder and query name, let's say get data. So right now the collection is given like this. So we have three collections, Shibam, Cynthia, and Jacob. So what I'll do, I'll make it as a variable name. Okay. And action, let it be fine. And let's give the name for the variable Shibam. Now do a test query. As you can see that all the details related present in our Shibam collection, like the particular collection related to Shibam, are being getting fetched here. So this particular part, the collection name is placed here as a variable name, which will enable us to provide the collection name in from our app in a dynamic way. Like if you want to provide Jacob at that moment of time, then it will fetch the details of Jacob only. So let me just save it. Okay. Just okay. Now let me add one more query, and this query will basically be about updating the values, right? So let's just wait. So update data, and this also I wanted as a collection name. And here what I'll do, we will do update one. So before doing the update, let's get one ID name. The reason why I'm telling you, because I'll show you just. So this particular ID is here. Let me copy it. Okay. So now I've selected the action here as update one. So let me go through it again. So the collection is given as usual as variables, and from the actions, instead of finding some data, I'm making it as update one. So while making an update, we have to like provide it a parameter of a unique identity, like a unique column name. So the ID here will be used as that. So the filter will be something like match it ID. Okay. Let me write the query for this also. Set. So what I want to set is like here the status, I want to make it changeable for the admin perspective. So let me write here status. Also I'll put it as a variable like status, right? Okay, so now if I paste, let me paste the ID. Let's try whether, so currently this particular ID of 0976 is the status is as paid, and I want it to be as pending. Let's test our query. It's the property variable inside a code. Something I'm missing here. Okay. Let me do the test query. So query execution executed successfully, and the result is here. Let's see if it is changed. So this is working fine, and let's save it. So finally, the query which I want is like inserting new values, right? So the getting of data is done. So updating the data is done. Let's insert data. So data. And the collection will be as usual as the collection name, the variable. Select it. And the action here will be insert one. Okay. So for this part, the query, let me just fetch it for you. Okay. So for the collection name, let's say Shibam, and amount, date and status, all these things you have to provide. So amount, let's say 259, and here let's say stationery category. So we have different categories, so I'm just referring to them only. Stationery, let me confirm the category. Stationery, okay, fine. And date, let's say this thing as, let's give it today's date, 24/01/2023. So initially every status goes as pending, so we can, but since we are still in our query builder mode, so you can provide it anything. Let's do a paid, let's do test query. So the execution is successful, and the data has been added to this particular Shibam collection, right? So let me just do it, see. So right now our connector is connected. All the queries which we require for our app has been added there, and you can find it right here as a connector. And if I search for reimbursement MongoDB, so here you can find it here. Okay, now let's move back to our app. Now this is where we are going to build our app. Let me close this and this. This will be our, let's say, reimbursement reimbursement panel. And you can also provide it headings just for the making it better look like exactly what we are going to build. It will be helpful. So let me put it in. You will also have like properties to decide it font and size and colors and everything. So that we can come back a little bit later after the completion of this thing. And I also don't want the left icon. Okay, fine. So in this panel, our main goal will be to able to view the data from our database and also to insert the data from user side. So to view the data, we'll be using a very strong and like very strong featureful control of in our studio platform, the table grid control. Okay, and for the insert purpose, we'll be using, as I mentioned earlier in our agenda, form repeat control. So before that, what I'll do, I'll have a container right here. And this container will have the form repeat control. And how this form repeat control works, we will soon get to see it, like the main functionality and how it is going to help us. Okay, so before that, let me also have a submit button. So this button is nothing, just to trigger the action to insert the details which we will get from form repeat control. Now the form repeat control is basically empty. And inside this, what we need to get is, first of all, we need to get the category from user. So for category, what I'll be using drop down control. Here. And we also want that at what date the expenditure was done. So I'll also have here this date picker. And finally, what amount was the expenditure? So for that, I'll have numeric control. Put it. Okay. So this is like very the very like basic model what we need for this particular screen. So let's move ahead with the table grid. So in the table grid, we need to fetch the details. I'll go to the side panel of data and then click on connectors, and you can do a select connector. Please do a refresh, since I've just recently added all the things regarding a connector. And here is the connector, and this query is particularly what we need. Let's do continue. So here the collection name, for now I'll put it as Shubham, and the details which we are getting, you can see, like, let me show you, view raw response. So the details what we are getting is result.rows.id. So this is kind of what you can say a bit messy. So let's do a transform response on that. So basically I don't want the result.rows and this thing result.rows. So what I'll do, I'll only take data from data result.rows. Let's remove these columns, do a test. The test was successful. Okay, something here is missing. Sorry, so it is data, not date. Okay, let me remove this again. Let's do a test. And here we are, this ID, category, amount, data, and status. So this section, select column to bind, is like when you are fetching the data from your database, there are several columns, right? So what all columns you want to be present in your studio account, not like if you are selecting all these 5, these things will be present on your studio account, like on this particular app, or these things, all the columns will be fetched. And if I don't select one, so that particular column details will not be accessible from our app. So let's do a test and finish. Formula has been saved, ID, category, amount, and okay, cool. Sorry, date and status is there. Awesome. Next, there are a few things which I want and also don't want. The ID, I don't want to be shown. Okay. Category, amount, date, and status, that is good. Here, the status, like you can do multiple things to your table grid from your property segment. So right now I want to change the status format data. So the status format data, what I want to be is a single tag. So single tag will help us to view it in a very good manner. Like it is basically for the UI experience, like the users should be able to see it in a very good way. Let's do add option. So the single tag, after clicking and do it, is the add option. What I want is like one is pending, one is paid, one is rejected. So that is reimbursement wasn't done. Now the best thing about this is like you can give it some color code, like for this is like the basic thing which intrigues user. So paid is green, pending is yellow, reject is red. Save and close. Let's do finish. So the formula has been saved, right? The travel pending rejected, the date is there, the amount is there. Awesome. Now moving to our this section. And this section, let me call it as so I've added a heading just to make it more clearer, like enter reimbursement details, and let's make it a bit bold. Okay. Now moving on to this drop down, let's give it a proper name. Expenditure. So the expenditure category is here. Let me align it properly. Okay, so I think due to some internet issue, there is some glitch over happening here. Just give me a minute. Let me stop sharing my screen. I'm just refreshing the app once, and okay, so it is there now. Share. Okay. So I believe the screen is visible, and let's go to its data section. So the drop down should have several options, right? And the options which we are going to provide, let me just copy it. So these are details which we want as options in our dropdown, like travels, business, stationery, personal care, and all this thing. So let me save it. So this is done. Let's move on to our date picker. So date picker is, so let's rename this also. Expenditure. And few properties which I will mention here, like the first thing is about disabling days. So disable all. So Future dates we don't want, since the reimbursement can the date I don't want for the future, and all the past dates will be present there. Okay, so the dropdown is done, the date pick is done. Now let's come to numeric. So this will be nothing but expenditure amount. Okay, now moving on, like here that user will give their details. Now moving on to the action button. So this button will basically what do, it will help us to submit or to insert the data, this data in our database. And you can also add some icon, like if you want, you have this show icon button, then icon position, you can put it right, left. You have simple line icons, font awesomes, and let's say if I want to, let's say dollar, right, and just click here, and the dollar is added here, right? Okay, now moving on to its action. So the data is provided here, everything is okay. And also now let's go to the event of this particular button. So on button click, what I want to do is, now the form repeat control is a control which help us to input multiple inputs, right? So this is not necessarily that the user will put a single category or single amount. He or she can insert multiple. So for that, what we will use, the action provided is the iterate task. So we have the iterate task action here, and under this, the control which we will select will be our form repeat. Okay, so finish. Now with every insert of or every input on form repeat, it will do an iteration. Now on each iteration, what I want, the first thing I want is to do a server side action to insert the data. But there is one thing, like the data, the date control which you have selected earlier, it gives us the data in a Unix format. Now I want to change it in a month, date, year format, like so DD, YYY. And for that, and along with this, if you have noticed, we are not sending the status right now. So the status is by default pending. So that default value also we need to provide. So what I'll do, first I'll take a JS code, and this will have all the iterate task value. So whatever we are getting from our form repeat control, I'll save it. Let me just get the dummy data what we are getting. So let's just say this is the dummy data. So this is the data which we are saying that on each iterate we will be getting it, and let's give it a value of record. So record, and I have a JavaScript for this. Let me copy it. I'll explain it to you. What exactly are we trying to achieve here? So the output which we are creating again with respect to our inputs from our form repeat control will be basically like the expenditure category will be known as category, the amount will be known as amount, and for the date, if you can see in our fifth line, for our date, what we have is we are using an supported library in our present in our studio. You can check it from here, like all these things we already support, underscore moment.js and all this thing. So what we are using the moment.js library, which is helping us to convert the Unix data into our desirable format, that is date, dd YY. And the status of output is basically we are providing as pending. Now let's do a test script. Let's see what we are getting. So we are getting business amount, the date in a required format, and status as pending. This is well and good. So let's do continue. Now, the output which we are getting, we have to save it somewhere. So for that, I'll be using a variable, and that will be, let's say, output. And I'll just name it as output. Finish. Now the thing we will do will be related to our server side action. So let me just go here, search for reimbursement, and it will be an insert data. So the amount here will be so what I'm doing previously what we have saved as jscode.output. I'm selecting only the amount part, right? So similarly, let's do it here. Instead of amount, I want category, and instead of collection name, so still I'll just give it a static value, and for the date status, so now that the distribution is done using keywords, let's do a continue and finish. The JS code is done, the insertion is done, and after the insertion, to see whether the value is getting reflected or not, let's reset. So I'll reset the control for table grid along with form repeat control, since like if there are several inputs which we are getting, so if we also want that now, and also the particular input controls which we have provided, like for category, date, and where is it, date. That's it. Let's do continue, finish. So let's just preview for once. Let's see how is it looking. So the first thing first is like fetching of data. So the data has been fetched, which is nice. There is this thing. Last is stationary. So let's do business expenditure date. Let's say the only 34.5. Personal care. Let's do submit. As you can see, the business 345 has been added, and also the personal care 543 has been added. So our reimbursement panel is working perfectly fine. There are some things which will come back later and do it. So let's just move on to our next panel, which is our admin panel. Now, when I talk about admin panel, let me add another screen first. Admin panel, heading left icon. Now, when I talk about admin panel, let's say there are 3 person. Out of this 3 person, only 1 person is admin. So that admin will not able to insert the details of his own as in this reimbursement app, but also will be able to like change the status of the all the reimbursement required for himself and also the other two persons, right? So for that, first we need to see like what all things are there, and to see, as usual, I'll use table grid control for this also. Now let me fetch the data. It will be very much similar to the previous table grid which we have configured, like connectors and select connector, because we just simply getting all the details. Get data. Collection name. Okay, so here also the collection name, let me set is as Shibam. Transform data response, I want to make it look better. It will test. Test is successful ID and test and finish. Okay. Now let's hide the ID. I don't want the ID to be displayed. And also let's do format data. I want again the status as single tag. Let me quickly fill it up. Ending yellow rejected. Save and close, finish. Now, before moving forward, let me add one more control. And this control is basically for the purpose of changing this data on present in our table grid with respect to different users or different collections, right? So for that, okay, not advanced, but for that I'll be using drop down control. Let me open it up. Why is it not opening? Where is it? Let me give it a name of profile. And since the options which we have will like totally be similar to what we have as our collection, Jacob, for the Cynthia, let me just correct one thing, get it done. See why. Okay. And by default, I want it to be shown as the profile which I want to be as admin. So the admin I'm providing here will be Shubham. So let's save it. Now there is a small change which I'll do in our table grid data bind section. That is, now like earlier we were fetching the data from our collection based on static value, right? But if you have remembered that while building our query, we have provided a variable support, right? So here I take that feature into use as providing keyword of profile. So now let me just save it, test and finish. So how is this affecting? Let me do a preview first so that you will be able to understand. So right now I'm getting the details of Shibam. When I'm clicking on Cynthia, it is giving me the details of Cynthia, right? So this was the main purpose of making it the variable as for the collection name and also the profile. Now in the table grid, I'll go to actions. First of all, let me make it editable for the status column. And for that, let me choose the column because the admin should be able to change the status, right? Status admin there. Now on changing it, we get a save changes option. So that save changes action we will try now to configure. And similarly that there can be multiple changes. Whenever we get a multiple thing, we will generally use the iterate task feature of on-screen action. Let me select iterate task. This is our table grid 1. Table grid 1 edited row. So whatever we are editing, it will come to us, or we can get the reference through this particular keyword. Let's do continue. Finish. Now, nothing we have to do much. Just go to server side section, select the connector, and next we need to select the query, which is update. And let me wait. And the collection name, just simply put profile, because whatever collection we have in our front, that only collection will be get affected from the edit query. And the keyword, let me just grab it. This is just similarly to what we have done earlier. Just the keyword main name is changed, nothing else. I did task status continue. Finish. Let's reset the table grid just to see that whether the changes are there or not. Now before moving forward, there is a thing like if you have noticed that how we are going to switch it, right? And how we are going to understand like whether this particular person is the admin or not. So for that, there is a feature in our studio account like to add users. So I have already added few users here, which are respectively to our collection names, which are like me, Shibam, Jacob, and Cynthia. And for that, I will be using those username particularly to determine whether the person is the admin or not. Now let's see how to do that. Okay, let me just go to preview first. And here from Fennel, let me select myself. So this is the user. I'm able to accessing it since I've added this user. Now let me cross it up. It will just take few minutes. Now this thing, let's go to data. Remember I have mentioned it the collection name as static value, so I'll just change it again. So what I'll do, I simply come here, search for the keyword username. Now whatever the username is there, it will fetch the details of that particular username. So if Shibam is there, the details regarding Shibam will be there only. And in the submit also, it will be viewed soon. Let me just go here. continue. Here also, let me just delete it and get the username. Since the username is currently Fennel, that's why the table grid is not being shown. But as soon as we change the username from our preview section, it will show it. So let me just, it is saved. Let me just, now there is one more last thing which we will do. This is the very last thing, that is to have a button which will help us to change between the user panel and the admin panel. And this will be, let me name it as, let's say, manage. Now this manage will have few functionality, which is, first, it will have an event to navigate, and this navigation will be done from reimbursement panel to admin panel, and select on continue. Press to finish. Okay, and this will be initially hidden because you don't want Jacob to see this particular button. So what I'll do, I'll make it hidden. Now I'll add one condition on screen open. I'll click on outside and click on events. On screen open, what I'll do show. Okay, where is it? Show. Yeah, show control. And the control which I want to be, I want it to, there is button one, continue. And there is a option of when to execute. Yes. So whenever the user name will be equal to Shibam, I want that button to be shown. Simple as that. Now it's done. Let's save it and click on preview. So right now I'm on Shivam. Let's change our user to see whether it is working or not. Let's try Cynthia. So it is working. Let's go back to Shivam. As you can see, the manage button is present here, but not for Cynthia. Now when I'll click on manage, it will navigate me to our admin panel. And let's do some changes here. Let's see, I want this personal thing to be rejected and the business to be paid. Let's do save changes. So it is done. So this is how you can use various features to understand how you want to navigate from one screen to another screen, and making people the admin or giving them user role, and create different types of panels and other apps. So yeah, that would be all. Thank you for seeing all this thing, for being here today. In case if you have any doubt regarding this whole building app, you can ask in our chat session. And let me see how one you can chat. Okay. So does anyone have any doubt? Then do let me know. And thank you for being here. Let's connect again on our upcoming session for the next one. Thank you.